In my opinion, Rainbow is a game that was never meant to be fully understood. The events of a first playthrough almost definitely result in the player being confused and probably consulting the wiki. The world of Rainworld was, and still is, largely unknown. The story can only be unraveled by our actions as a tiny slug cat. Even though each slug cat has its own story, most slug cats are kind of just there. And I believe this was done on purpose for most slug cats, simply being conduits for the story to run through them, like the Hunter or the Sphere Master. However, there's one slug cat in particular that I believe has some of the best storytelling I've ever seen. A story of an unforgiving world, a story of hate and violence, a cycle never ending. The story of the ancients and the echoes, and coincidentally, the story of the Artificer. A bold statement, I know, but allow me to explain. Let me start by explaining who exactly the Artificer is. Artificer on her surface seems like just a violent killing machine. And that's not entirely wrong. Her out of all the slug cats have the most visceral and violent gameplay, with the majority of the enemies you face being the unpredictable scavengers who force you to be creatively brutal and are impossible to befriend. This may seem like a power trip at first, but this playstyle makes sense in context of the lore. The Artificer once took care of two slug cats who tragically fell to the hands of the scavengers. Cool, so it's just a revenge plot where she kills all the scavengers. Yeah, no, this is Rainworld we're talking about. This loss puts the Artificer into a feral rage, so much so that she gets permanently stuck at the lowest karma level, that being violence. She has no care or desire to climb the karmic ladder. She is forever stuck on the death of her pups. And honestly, I think the devs did a great job at showing this in her campaign. For instance, in order to get past karma gates, gates that prevent you from passing unless you have a certain level of karma, keep in mind she is stuck at the lowest, being violence, you have to use the corpse of a scavenger to get through. Let me re-say that. The Artificer is so hateful and so full of grief and spite that she uses the corpses of who she's killed to bypass the karma requirement for gates. Nothing is going to stop her. Her kit also seems strangely built for dealing with scavengers, being able to deflect projectiles and being able to maul them to death with no equipment necessary. It really seems like she's built her entire life around fighting these and killing these scavengers, which is exactly what the devs want you to play as, feel as playing her. So good job, More Slug Cats team. You guys did incredible. Interestingly enough, though, she's one of the only slug cats that Five Pebbles doesn't meet with annoyance. This is probably because she's actually useful to Five Pebbles, and he tells her to eradicate the entire scavenger population in his metropolis, and she's more than happy to do so. This interaction probably speaks more to the character of Five Pebbles than to the Artificers, but I find it funny that these two seemingly unconnected characters both unknowingly contribute to the endless cycle of violence and survival. What I find the most fitting about the Artificer is her conclusion. Deep in the metropolis, you might find an echo. 12 beads amongst burning skies. The echo gives her a warning. You are stuck in a cycle of wrath and destruction, simple being. Gripped by raw emotions whose chains bind you, destined to this land. Shortcomings of the past haunt one and all like whispering phantoms. Listen. Let this be a warning to you. An unrewarding battle awaits, accumulating in a path of no return. A perpetuity of struggles begetting more of the same. Find a way out, if you still can. After finding this echo, the player is then left with the choice. To ignore the echo and continue the slaughter, or to find the way out. Most players will ignore the echo and continue to the Chieftain Scavenger, where the Artificer kills the Chieftain and goes on an endless rampage, forever stuck and bound to the world. All of her rage will live on forever in the blood-soaked apartments of Five Pebbles Metropolis. However, there seems to be hope for her as you can heed the echo's advice. This is where a terrible realization sets in Downpour's magnum opus. There aren't enough echoes to reach maximum karma. No matter how hard she tries, no matter how many cycles she completes, and no matter how many echo visits she does, she is locked out of Ascension permanently. With the only way being past the Guardians, she is forced to kill another scavenger. Using a combination of its karma level and hers to bypass the Guardian, she enters the Void Sea. Her descent is notably different than the other characters. The calm and serene moments of Ascension are replaced with parts of her being torn away, disappearing into the sea. This is where Downpour twists the knife. In her final moments, she can see her pups who have ascended. She goes to embrace them. In doing so, she proves she's still eternally attached to the world and will never be able to free herself from the grief and hate. She disappears and becomes an echo, destined to haunt the land forever. Of all the characters in Rainworld, she is the least deserving of this fate, in my opinion. She was destined to be in this cycle forever. A lot like the Iterators, admittedly. There is no escape for the Artificer. There was never a way out. Only the cruel embrace of everlasting violence and grief.